Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. What is it?
So,
What did you say? What did you say?
So it's time, and
Yes,
can I
it's
proceed?
time. Proceed. My great request to all participants, please switch on your cameras. Black screens are not what we want today, right? Thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, and it's a very good point. And I recall the early days of this COVID, when during weeks and months we were iterating with each other and seeing only, let's say, small boxes. And it took quite a lot, by the way, to to keep contact, to keep a mental and emotional connection, even though with the screens switched on. So let's do it and have a fruitful conversation. So it's very much free form. I know that there are many essays you prepared, so you're very welcome to present them in course of our conversation. And also there were quite a few presentations definitely worth sharing as well. So I won't be asking for particular persons, but when we will be discussing the particular sections, feel free to raise a hand and just proceed with the slides, and even more to proceed with the conversation. And I encourage very much to have questions and answers. So let's start and let's warm up a little bit. I started my career in 1993. So it doesn't add much wisdom, no, but it adds some very good visibility of the long trends, just due to this long history and long tail. And when I consciously started as a consultant's position in 1995, the world of work was like this. People were planning and executing lifetime careers, for example, in banking, for example, in particular industries, for example, even at particular positions. You could be an accountant in your early 80s and in your early 20s and end up at this occupation, getting your pension and leaving the office. So as companies, they were planning and executing 4-year strategies, 5-year strategies, 6-year strategies. Okay, there were some adjustments in the middle of this term, but generally there were goals. There was a vision of the future, and companies were rolling at this in average 5-year cycles. Not anymore. First time in 2014, I noticed when I was attending the board of directors, there were 2 questions discussed one after another. One, are we selling our company? Another is, are we buying other companies? So they were part of the same agenda. And states were declaring globalizations. The internet had been global, not anymore. Recently, American think tank related to information technologies released their overview that global internet is not a reality anymore, and US approach, US strategy generally failed. So, and there are new country blocks, new alliances now. So this part of reality is also changing. So, and when we go to individual career, individual profession, definitely it's related to information revolution. And this is one more revolution. Some people say it's fourth after this first industrial and second electrical, etc. However, these previous revolutions were quite long. They were like 50 years, 60 years. So it gave people quite plenty of time to adjust. But nowadays we may face the situation that a particular career evolves and arrives and disappears in course of 30 to 40 years, which is practically shorter than individual career span of the person. However, there are exceptions. A few days ago, I was speaking to my mentor. She's originally from South Africa, and she's a project manager in information systems. And she's now 62, still busy with the projects, still very demanded and She told me that in Germany, in one SAP implementation related to pharmaceuticals, she found Fortran codes. Fortran is a programming language, and I kindly ask you to raise hands of people who know what Fortran name stands for. No. Well, what can I say? When I was 13 and when I just started in junior programming club, I was doing some Fortran programming. Well, I'm not, I'm not 13 anymore, but still there are pieces of this code and there are experts busy with this programming language. So it may still happen that even in information technologies, you learn one technology in the university and you proceed with this technology more or less the whole of your life. And at other project in Germany, I was speaking to people running IT for big chemical production. It was a chemical, they were producing chemical materials for construction industry. And they used IBM mainframes for decades. They're up and running and spare parts are available and software patches are available. And people who learned these things like 20, 30 years ago, well, still, of course, there are adjustments, but still these skills are required. So occupations may erode, and one question arrives. It was quite essential earlier, but now it's more or less, I would say, critical. Are we building one career per life, or are we building several careers? For example, a friend of mine deliberately addressed the occupation of pet doctor for her daughter, and this is one career per life. She's getting an apartment in London, and it's okay. And so, being busy, still we don't have artificial intelligence or robots, curing our pets. So it's quite nicely busy. Another example is mine. I was in construction industry. I was in metals industry. I was even government industry and chemical industry. But at the same time, doing pretty much the same, doing organizational development, doing consulting, so applying same set of skills to different industries. I remember other day I was speaking to ex-diplomat from South America. He actually decided to become an entrepreneur and started to produce replicas of leather, antique things like saddle watches, like gloves for Maria Antoinetta, his French emperor. He was doing a very required things required by Hollywood, required by Arab rich people, and busy and extremely happy living his diplomatic career. So are we speaking about several careers, or are we even speaking about several parallel careers? So we are doing things in course of our work week. So as a winner, I will be asking a set of questions to you.
Pavel, sorry, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but can you do something with your sound?
Sound, what's wrong with it?
It's not very clear, and it could be a little bit louder. Can you do something?
Is it better now?
Is it only my impression, or everybody thinks?
On my end, the sound is quite good. I don't have personally a problem.
Okay. Okay, then.
Oh, right. Yeah, because actually my PC is a little bit new, and I even don't know where is the microphone is located.
Closer to the microphone.
Yeah. All right. So let's proceed with the questions. Are there other trends you see as an influencing your personal career, or your future career, or your planned career, or your existing career? And what is your personal plan to consider these trends, to take them into account? And which questions did you get? Probably earlier, probably now in future, probably start. As I said, it's a warm-up, and we will proceed with the whole company. Now let's start with this career trends warm-up. Please, your questions, your thoughts, your considerations. don't hesitate. It's not an exam. It's nothing. It's a free-form consideration. And I'm very interested to talk to you since my first
Yes.
mentees, were in early 2000s. So please proceed.
If I may start, I think the interesting trend right now is remote work. This is something which happened during COVID, and now, for example, more and more people in my university year, they're using this so they can, for example, more efficiently combine study and work. You have, let's say, lessons you have university lectures from, let's say, like 2 to 6, and then in the morning you do some remote work. You have some calls during the breaks, and you manage your time more efficiently. And I think that's very vital for students because you get invaluable life experience on one side, and then you also study, you gain the theoretical, the academic knowledge. I think for, let's say, for us, maybe not so relevant because we like fourth years are already like working, we are doing our diplomas, but for people in earlier years of university, let's say year 3, year 2, they can really consider this because right now it feels like building that working experience, building real skills is also becoming quite vital, and you want to be a really prepared expert, not so expert, but a prepared worker and a prepared employee, so that after fourth year you are not, starry-eyed student. You are a person who actually has worked, who knows what he is doing, and who has actual skills in addition to their deep academical understanding.
Well, I think you touched a very good, very relevant question, actually a set of questions. So, Irina, I saw your message, please, let me proceed. Let's just proceed. So there are several trends here. First, this COVID transition, it was a forced decision. It was done in a very rush mode. So definitely it didn't work perfectly exactly. So some companies, they remained remote. There are companies, there are teams, 10 people, 15 people who operate from different parts of the world. So they operate remotely ever still. I noticed and I monitored some government institutions which didn't manage to online at all. So, and spring of 20th, I got let's say, a request from one of senior government officials to prepare the recommendations of how to go online efficiently. So with a small group of consultants, we started to think about this review, and definitely everybody were obsessed with the idea of how to take your PC and remote. So, and we found a different approach. We started to discuss on how to remain a team connection and how to keep sanity. Because, for some people, remote work is, let's say, it's very comfortable. No noises, no distractions, nothing. For others, it's a catastrophe. For example, relatively small apartments, kids around, distractions all the time. For a third category, it's a problem because they don't see their boss and they need an approval, they need a feedback, not getting this feedback. So it depends on people very much. And I would say this lesson of remote work is not exactly, let's say, considered yet. And what I'm reading is that some companies like Facebook, like IBM, they even turned this pendulum to opposite direction. So people are returning, let's say, to their offices. Sometimes they are requested to return to their offices because the old command and control system doesn't work well with this remote approach. So I would say future is 50-50. There will be an online component, there will be a physical component. For example, if you do strategy session and I act as a moderator, from time to time, you actually need people sitting in one room to keep this energy, to keep this in strategy thinking. So it's quite interesting. Definitely, there is a trend. definitely you can strive to, let's say, for example, developer work or tester work, and you from whatever topic like. So this is one coordinate, one, let's say, thing related to your choice. Another question you touched, is there a relation between university study and work? So are you third year or fourth year or what?
I'm the fourth year, so it's like my final year here.
Yeah. So I started to take first contracts when I was third year in the university. And personally, I'm very much convinced that for most of professions, 5 years of study and even 4 years of study is quite much. There are exceptions. For example, I wouldn't trust doctor after 3 years of education. So for doctors, there is a longer, let's say, study curve. But for most of professions, I would say ideal would be, let's say, you study for 3 years, then work for 1 year, then you study for 1 year. So you build it like salami, like iterations between studying and work. Unfortunately, it's quite hard to organize from the university perspective. Surprisingly, universities are quite conservative in their business processes, and it's worldwide, everywhere. So, and from company perspective, of course, it's quite complicated to arrange. But hopefully we'll have these examples of work you study, or you combine with parallel, or you even work and combine it in a very short spans of additional educations. For example, we spend 1 evening, or we spend several evenings in a week. So you combine work and education. So thanks for good set of questions. It's not one question, and it's a set of considerations. It was quite interesting to. Okay, some more trends, some more thoughts, some more concerns.
Yes.
Please.
I have something to say. I think maybe due to COVID and all this remote working experience, right now people tend to value their freedom more than ever. So we see a lot of freelancers, we see a lot of portfolio workers. So people are getting ready not to be just one company's employee, but to combine different projects and only to take those that they enjoy and work more for themselves. So to do what they like, not what somebody tells them to do. And also not to be like stuck in one place, so that they can travel, they can see the world. I think it's also the impact of COVID when we were just closed in our apartments. So now people are really willing to go somewhere and to see as much as possible. And this is also the reason for such popularity of freelancing and those portfolio workers.
Yeah. I would give two considerations regarding this. First of all, definitely there was a trend named big resignation when people who left the office due to COVID and working remotely, they looked around and said, "Oh, that office sucks." So they started to leave to another occupation or to freelancing or to other stuff. Apparently, it's a trend. Two things. First, being a freelancer require a lot of self-discipline. You know, you're feeling fine this morning, you work. You're feeling bad this morning, you work. You're sleepy, you work. You don't have mood, you work, because you have promises, you have certain considerations regarding you. And this is a good thing to think about. Are your skills really demanded in freelancing work? Well, I hate to say this, I didn't want to touch this topic, but thinking about artificial intelligence, which can automate several of those freelance-related positions, illustrating or writing music or stuff. I think we are at the early stage of this, but definitely there is a lot to think about. Remote information in relation and information to including this AI. Any more considerations? Even though when I started to work, actually when I started my university education, it was 5.5 years that time, and after I finished, there was another country under us, so there was a certain degree of turbulence. However, I think in terms of work dynamics, I will be leaving office relatively soon, so I'm closer to the end of my career beginning. So we live more turbulent environments. Big experience. Actually, a few months ago, I was having a conversation with my daughter, she's 25, and she said, you know, that there are turbulent factors like COVID first and it's okay. In my career, it was like, one country and another country. Then in 1933, we had a civil disorder in Moscow. In 1988, currency rate collapsed 4 times in a week, not 20%, not 30%, 4 times in a week. So I'm afraid these crisis things will be repeating now and then, probably more severe in their amplitude. Okay. Other questions related to individual level before we go to this company level?
In fact, we have some notions. We want to also talk a little bit about negative manifestations, such as popularization of hustle culture and toxic atmosphere in the company. We have prepared a short post on the bad influence of fast-paced world, and we can right now present it or not.
Yeah, please present it. Please proceed.
1 second. Can you see the presentation?
Visible. Can you hear me?
Yeah, right now I can see you. 1 second. Alina, can you start? Can you present us?
Yeah, so basically we're Alina and Ekaterina, and we just wanted to give a little brief talk, I'd say, about the root causes of negativity in the workplace. We thought it would be really interesting.
Yeah. Therefore, it would be interesting to look at the root causes of this problem among people of a certain age in a workplace. Working long hours, dealing with high levels of stress, constantly being connected with technologies can all contribute to why we go crazy at work. And many people feel pressure to constantly perform at their best and meet deadlines, leading to burnout and mental exhaustion. Additionally, workplace culture and expectation can create a toxic environment where employees feel undervalued and unsupported. So there are several reasons why we go crazy at work, and let's talk about each one in more detail. First one is hustle culture. It's the maniacal level of ambition and in inadequate state of mind when people are just staring out and they're in such hurry all the time. We want to achieve everything. We want to achieve mega success. This is the notion of hustle culture, which states that unless you just kill yourself to do everything, you will never achieve anything. In fact, part of the appeal of hustle culture is the belief that you can't succeed if you don't do it. The culture surrounding hustle means that rest is our last priority, as you can see on the slide. Hustle culture encourages us to spend our free time on money and economic stability by any means necessary. Today, the phrase essentially means that you can overcome all obstacles to success with determination and hard work. And the success stories of hustle culture are endlessly retold by the media. Often we can see these success stories come from celebrities using their influence on social media to promote diets, teas, perfumes, and everything like that. And you feel yourself a little bit with low self-esteem, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Alina?
Yeah, well, I will continue. And the question remains the same. So, is the hustle culture actually a positive motivational force, or is it just hype used to make us feel guilty about using our free time to relax? And although hustle culture is treated as a modern phenomenon, it actually has its roots in the late 18th century. And at that time, actually, many people suffer from burnout. And this was partly because many of them were working much longer hours because of the advent of electricity and the pressures of the Industrial Revolution. And some of them were even diagnosed with a condition known at the time as neurasthenia. And its symptoms were depression, insomnia, fatigue, and other mental and physical ailments that we should associate today with the burnout of millennials and Gen Z. So basically, these symptoms were considered a natural part of the active mind and the good and hardworking American. And according to the prevailing narrative of hustle culture, when we climb the career ladder through overtime or working multiple jobs, it's not exploitation, it's a success story. Then toxic productivity, we've all heard about it, I think. This term is closely related to hustle culture as well. And this is when your self-esteem is so tied to your productivity that if you're not doing something that benefits you financially, you're wasting your time. And when we are judged by how much we can accomplish, and especially by how much we earn, the consequences can be devastating. And if we're not making a profit, we're not just economically worthless, we're literally just worthless. So it is not surprising that employment has become a status symbol. So if exhaustion is your norm, this can be a sign that you're in the cycle of toxic productivity. And such productivity has taken hold of many people now because regular routines were put on pause during the pandemic. It's a common knowledge. And you may have gone from having a busy daily routine to having huge amounts of free time. And as a result, a toxic pattern of productivity may have occurred where you threw yourself into any and all work you could find instead of seizing the opportunity to be idle.
In fact, as a consequence, stress caused by hustle work probably shortens your life expectancy, increases our risk of death from stroke or heart diseases, and other scary statistics that can be Googled deep into the night. And oddly enough, studies show that working long hours and multitasking are also reduce our essential productivity. Thus, we sacrifice our health, well-being, and free time in the name of mythical job that probably won't save our bank accounts in the end anyway. So Arina and I make some solutions for how to deal with that problem.
Yeah, so basically, how do we deal with it? In some cases, the pressure to succeed can lead to unethical behavior or even mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. And of course, it's important for employers to recognize the impact of these factors and take steps to promote work-life balance, provide support for mental health, and foster a positive workplace culture. And ultimately, it's up to individuals to prioritize their own well-being and set boundaries in their work lives and not just in their work lives. So this may include taking breaks, seeking support from colleagues or professionals, and just finding ways to disconnect from outside of business hours. And well, by recognizing the reasons why we go crazy at work and taking steps to address them, we can create a healthier and more productive work environment for everyone, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening for our ideas. And everybody, if we want, can add something to our theme.
Yeah, we will be grateful.
Well, dear authors, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for thinking, for, let's say, identifying trends and identifying what so work environment is about. May I ask you to return your presentation back and to get back to this slide, which is previous to the last one.
Oh, okay.
So, let's discuss a little bit. Don't worry, no rush to go Sunday. We got Easter today, so we don't hurry. We have very calm conversation. So, and my question is the following: how do you think? And please consider the development of management as a discipline. Please consider the development of leadership. What are the root causes? This type of
sorry, we have a poor connection right now. We can't.
We have difficulty hearing you. Could you please?
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, right now, yeah.
So it's better. Okay. So what are the root causes of this type of trends of hustle culture and toxic productivity? And I'm asking you to consider not just the history of management, but history of management leadership. So what is behind these trends? Why they are taking place?
Well, I would add that maybe one of the root causes can be the increasing pace of life, maybe, and including management and management styles, because it is developing so fast right now, so that not everyone can adjust to it so easily, and people can compare each other in some ways, and of course they will perform some kind of toxic productivity because of that, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think, why all these company things related to speed, why they occur, and when did it start? When did it become really hasty, really, fast moving, and why?
Probably in the late 20th century, I'd say. It has become more and more fast, and everyone had to adjust, especially maybe in the 90s. I think so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have the following thinking regarding it. Who can tell me which companies in human history, which of them were truly big and global? Which company can you name?
Well, we've got a lot of companies to mention. Maybe just the first ones that come to my head, maybe IBM and
I think everybody knows Apple, for example.
No, if it's possible to add to the girls' presentation.
Please do.
So I guess there are Alina got the point of the right factors, why it doesn't happen and so on. And in addition, I can say that there is a really very interesting reason of the culture, and the religion, which it was brought to the USA and then implemented to the all structures of life. How do they for example, students are made to
like have extra internships, practice, and so on, just from their 16 years old age, so on. And just about the biggest company, I can say it could be the parent company of BP, which was before the like getting into the parts. So
well, first, the consideration of religion is very interesting. So it definitely affects, it definitely evolves in different country cultures. Thinking of BP is quite interesting. Of course, it's quite an old international company. But if we think a little bit earlier, let's speak of 16th and 17th centuries. So were there global companies?
16th century.
I mean East Indian and West Indian companies. So they were operating from London, they were operating from Amsterdam, but they were sending ships to America, to Asia, to everywhere, operating in a colonial mode. So they were, I would say, truly global. What I want to emphasize, at that time, at the beginning, it took 6 months to the ship to cross the ocean. 6 months. So take it from the management perspective. It took 6 months to send some management signal and another six months to receive it back. So apparently things were developing quite slowly. After a century or century and a half, it took weeks for the ship to cross the ocean. Then we were having telegraph, then we were having telephone, and things started to evolve faster. And somebody mentioned this 1920s. So, of course, telephone took place. And it became faster and faster. And after the Second World War, companies started to evolve globally as well, started to compete, started to speed up product development to remain competitive. And product development require change, require company change. So, and for a good reason, I sent you the links to this capability to absorb change required by human. So definitely to 80s and to 90s, we came to the situation that capability to absorb change and capability to absorb information, it was overwhelming. It became definitely overwhelming. For some industries, it had been faster. For some industries, it had been slower. In information technologies, it had been extremely fast. So for the human being, it's not natural to consume this amount of information, to consume this amount of impressions. And definitely not all managers, they possess proper, let's say, individual culture and proper leadership skills to, let's say, to manage in non-hustle and in non-toxic productivity. So I see this as a, let's say, as a major root cause. Speeding up competition, speeding transformation, speeding up communication, speeding up the amount of data process. So it's combined with management skills, not to, let's say, not to tackle, not to be capable to be and exceptions like the authors of the company, they are rather the exceptions. So, and I'm asking you as an authors of this presentation or other participants to present your slide to share your thinking. And please focus on, let's see, is it possible to have this company? Is it possible to have many of these companies? How do you think? So please, the floor is yours. Proceed.
Can you please repeat the last sentences? We cannot hear you properly. One more time.
I think we'll make a 5 minutes break and then we'll turn to, let's say, to other career. So my question is that, is it possible to have many calm companies? Is it possible to have calm company culture as something massive, as something common, not an exception like we met with this, let's say, it doesn't be crazy at work.
Do you mind if I jump in here?
Please do.
I think that when it comes to company culture, I think it's possible to put all of those all of those sentiments of avoiding hustle culture and taking it at your own pace. It's possible to, I think, to plaster it over the whole company, but we really have to consider that right now it's hard to picture such a company being a leader, because I think we are also kind of like victims of this hustle culture, because, for example, it's very hard to say that like if it doesn't work like this, it will succeed. But I think it is possible, and anyway, right now I think it is possible, and I think there are companies which are like taking a more lighthearted approach and trying to, let's say, put less strain on the employees. I know there are experiments with like 4-day working week, or other ways to like make them more, give them more work-life balance. And I think it's possible, but my only consideration is, let's say another recession hits, another, let's say, kind of like economic crisis. Will this be sustainable long term? This is, I think, my only concern. Even if it's too like gloomy, that's what I would want to know personally.
Well, this is good thinking, and especially good thinking was that will economic crisis help building calm work environment, or it will bring us to even more gloomy environment. So, and I would appreciate other participants to share their opinion.
May I just also jump in this discussion? So personally, I believe that we can imagine the organizational development and the organization itself as a machine. And with the development of this machine and with the development of the technologies and with the development of the economy, this machine is becoming like better and better, and we start to implement some more and more things there. And if we just imagine this process as just the machine, as like something that works in front of us, we can see that with the development of these technologies, or with the development of the economy, the machine starts to work like faster and faster and faster and faster, and we implement some more and more and more things there. However, this means that the capability of this machine nowadays is like growing to the maximum. And for this reason, of course, like I believe that once we will understand that, no, it cannot work like that anymore, because this difficulties and this rush that exists nowadays in the companies is like the trend that exists just because of these jumps in the development for the last, I guess, like maybe 50 years, approximately. So this means that our main goal nowadays is to move from this jumping in the development to gradual and normal improvements in terms of like providing this machine the normal rhythm of working, to bring the stability and to move from these difficulties and this rush to stable growing with helping of the with helping to the development of this machine of organizational development and the economy development in general. And maybe some situations like COVID, or some situations like the restrictions from any side. This shows us that yes, you should be flexible. You should have enough technologies and opportunities to operate in this hard times. However, another interesting point is that this situation shows us that you should never be like too fast in the decision making, and you should never be too fast in operating your company. And you should always remember about stable improvements to be like to stay in touch with the reality. So I guess that's my point after the girls' presentation and our discussion. Just for now, maybe guys will also add something.
Well, apparently there is a very good addition, and it brings several thoughts to the picture. First, there was a thinking about organization as a machine in a German theories of management at the end of 19th, beginning of 20th century. My question to all the group: is there any fundamental difference between organization and a machine? Are they the same or are they different? And I think it requires a relatively short answer. So please, let's think together.
Well, certainly these things are different, but in the core they are alike, because they function based on a system. And well, that's basically it. You need a systematic approach to create a machine and a systematic approach to make an organization function.
Well, let's take a car, let's take a dishwashing machine, let's take any production equipment. What is the fundamental difference between them and the organization?
I believe that the main resource of the companies, it's a human resource, while in cars, it's just a mechanism which works automatically after the first launch. And
so, yeah, please proceed, sorry.
You can continue,
Yeah, thank you. So the fundamental difference is people. Of course, there are more and more organizations which are cyber physical. So we have robots, we have algorithms. I will give you a very simplified example. You walk down the street, you see this, let's say, shared electric wheel or shared electric, this piece of equipment you stand on and you drive, and you rent it with your mobile phone. You pick this QR code and you pay with your mobile phone and you go. And there is no single person from the company involved. It goes fully automatic. So, and in electronic banks like Tinkoff or Chinese WeBank, which is about 200 million people as a customers, all the transactions are automatic. So we have people, we have machines, but still there are people in organization. And what is a fundamental, let's say, specific thing related to people? In the organization, you can give them order, they will do the order, or probably they will not. So what makes people different from the machines?
Well, they are not so easily controlled as machines, because there are emotions involved, and it's more intangible in essence.
It's straight to the point. People have emotions. In other words, they have several emotions. And first of all, they have a right to feel. So, and let me put some thinking about it, because you will very soon be at work and you will have job tasks, you will have achievements, but also, which is more important, you will be having feelings about your achievements, about the work environment, about hustle culture, about toxic productivity, about all these things you will be feeling. And relatively soon you will be on the management positions, and you will be having employees which will have right to feel. And implementing changes, fast changes, slow changes, whatever changes. Please consider that people have a right to feel, have a right to doubt, have a right to ask questions, have a right to hesitate, have a right to disagree. This is a core reason of change management from one hand, and this is a core reason of change resistance from another hand. So people are having feelings, and still in quite many companies, we have people, not just robots. So this makes a fundamental difference between a company and a machine. Another statement was that company as a machine can be adjusted and improving all the time and all the time. If so, all the companies would be surviving and being better and better. But as we know, quite many companies are dying. Quite many companies are leaving the market. Why so? What make them, ceasing to exist?
Excuse me, can I add about our last theme that people have feelings, emotions, and desires, and if people don't want to do something, they will not do it. And we have to explain the purpose and goal of this changes in our organization.
It's a very good statement, but I would say the reality is worse. People will find whatever reason not to do what they're told. They will refuse, they will disagree, they will leave the company, they will say yes and doing nothing, they will be imitating of doing. So there is a quite broad scale of, or they will be building coalitions, by the way, coalition to resist. So change implementation may become much more complicated if you don't consider human feelings. Mm-hmm. So let me come back to my previous statement. If company is like a machine, if it's evolving all the time, why companies are leaving the market? Why companies are dying?
My point while I was describing this mechanism of imagining the company as a machine was that yes, now there is the constant improvement, maybe in no, but some 10 years ago, let's be constant improvement in the technologies, in the society, in everything, in technologies, and the idea is that the company should not be improved in that jumping way, because they are losing the touch with the reality, and this means that they cannot exist in our world, so they ruin themselves. So it's just my personal opinion and my personal imagination of the situation, because with the losing the real touch with what surrounds you, you try to always improve yourself, improve your company, improve the processes in your company, improve the production. However, you lose maybe your mission, your ideas. You forgive some bigger things, and this means that you cannot survive in the constant competition, because especially nowadays when the economy is quite developed and we have a lot of companies and we have companies to choose from, this means that you should give your customers something more than just perfectly improved production or perfectly improved organizational system for your employees. There should be something else, something that have this line with what really happens in our modern world. So you should bring some aims that explains your mission, your vision, the ideas, and you should develop, but not in the jumping way to forgetting about some important steps. Maybe like that.
Well, it's very interesting thinking, and let me combine it with one more thinking, which I was reading in one essay. Sorry, I forget the name, but I was reading the essay this morning, and the statement was that companies are rarely, accepting and adopting innovations inside. So, an innovation, in quite many cases, is related to something customers want. How do you think? Why companies, are not listening to customer? Why companies are not taking a risk, a will to, let's say, to take new innovations, to take new products, to, let's say, to meet closer with it, to meet this bigger picture with the customers? Why companies are not doing it? And what is the reason of this internal, let's say, hesitation or resistance?
I suppose that there are like a couple of reasons, but recently I read a book of Odysseus, and one of the main points was that there is always a problem of middle management when like middle managers don't want to do something and implement something new because there is a risk for them. So it's like the agency problem when they are threatened to do something new because they don't want to get any problems from the top management, and they have like a lack of motivation and so on. And then another case why they hesitating to implementing lots of new technologies and different abilities and new abilities and opportunities for the company is at the point that they are just frightened about them. And just the point that nobody wants to change something in the company till the moment when they need to do it very fast and in the last moment. And just when you do some changes, it doesn't depend which changes, even like moving to the new office, it will be like very simple and maybe stupid example, but the point is that they don't want to change anything because it is difficult. You cannot see the final goal sometimes why do you do it, and it's just frightening because why? And if we now change this thing, we should change another point in next month or maybe tomorrow. And if we implement the changes right now, so we will be on this particular way of constant changes. And in my opinion, in some cases, in opinion for this is just the frightening of the changes and new abilities and opportunities.
I will definitely comment this. Any other opinions, please? Or let's say other thinking or contra thinking or whatever, please.
Could I just add about the customers and why companies do not implement all the changes the customers propose or the improvements to the existing products or services? So basically, I think that companies do collect some certain feedback from their customers about how to improve certain products or services, but still they have to also analyze and to understand how feasible these changes will be and how profitable they will be. Because if you just implement all the changes which are proposed by the customers, this will require a lot of investment to the R&D or to the production facilities and certain changes in the production process. However, this might bring just some minor changes in the end product, like in the way it looks or in the way it functions, or some minor changes in the service. However, it will require a lot of time and efforts to change the product's production system. So this means that this will not bring enough profit. However, requires a lot of time and efforts, and companies need to also consider this because you cannot just follow all the advices you get from the feedback of your customers. So I think this is one of the reasons why companies most of the time just follow some of their own understanding of how the product should work or how the service should be offered, instead of just collecting all the feedback and following all the advices the customers give to them. So I think this is also a question of the margin and the profitability for the company, instead of just putting all the efforts and investments in some random changes the customers propose, because customers most often do not really know what they want. And it is also a job for the marketing team and the market and sales team in order to give the customer this understanding of how the product can solve their pain, or how this exact product can help them in their daily lives. So it is actually the job of the company and their marketing team to promote the product they have in a way for customer to like it, instead of just continue evolving it all the time and just create some minor changes in it. So maybe this is one of the issues connected with the customers and their feedback.
Yes. Okay, other thinking, please.
I'd like to add to that. I think that Oля really hit a sweet spot on this, by which I mean, I think that balance between company interests and consumer interests is really important, because I think unless you're listening to a very niche, very experienced group of customers, unless you're, for example, a very niche service or good provider, you can't really always go on what the consumers want, because once again, you have your margins, you have a lot of data, hopefully from a marketing team, which is collected, which is analyzed, and there are, I think, a lot more factors to the market than just consumers. If we, for example, reference Porter's 5 forces, there is competition, there are a lot of things. So when you consider how you want to innovate, you really should think, what will it entail for your company, for the market, and how can you make it the best for you? And for some people, I think that's, first of all, very frightening, as we humans are inherently, we are very reactive. We don't like change. We are usually not so into innovations. But here, people also realize this is out of work. This, for example, can get you fired if you make a mistake. And people are, I wouldn't say scared, but they're wary of those innovations and those changes.
Okay, very good thinking. Anything more before I will comment?
Can I add something? In the chat, you can find the classical example of strange behavior of customers. This car was created by Homer Simpson as an ideal car for every American family. And when his relatives started to produce this car, his company became a bankrupt because most ideas of customers are very strange, and companies don't need to concentrate of ideas of the customers. They need to sell their innovations, their ideas to the customers.
Well, also good thinking. And since there were quite several statements, let me comment some of them. And speaking about strange product requirements and really meeting customer needs, let me give one example. In Moscow subway, several years ago, there was a conversation on how to organize and how to arrange the capability to make a metro, to make a subway accessible for disabled people. So natural thinking brings us to the idea that there should be separate staircases, separate elevators, separate whatever. So, but speaking cost-wise, and of course, it's very good that you mentioned cost factor, it would be very expensive, probably even not physically possible. So in practice, they were thinking about this product development, about thinking how to bring the need. They decided to implement mobile teams of people ready to help, ready to support disabled people, and ready to arrange it. So the need is met. it's working. It's working. However, it's not about, if you want speed, you need a faster horse. No, you need a totally different approach. So this was a very good thinking. Another thinking was about middle management and about their resistance. First, let me give you a numeric fact that when we were speaking about history of big companies, history about global companies, if we take, for example, 1960, how do you think, how many management levels were that time in, let's say, a typical global company like General Electric or something, or BP? How many management level we were having between Mr. President and between the last employee in the chain of command? What is this number? How do you think? In average?
Well, that may be like three levels.
Well, 5 to 6. We were speaking about 1960. No computers, no internet, nothing. Only physical management systems based on humans.
Isn't that like the top level, middle level, and the front level?
No. I'm speaking about number of, let's say, president, vice president, deputy vice president, and till down to cleaning person. Irina, 10.
Let it be 20.
Oh, well, surprisingly, 20 is very close to reality, because when I was reading it, I was surprised. It could be 24 levels. Well, you asked me a question of how these management systems were operating. Please don't expect answer, because speaking seriously, I don't understand how it was working. But there were people, bunches of people, just preparing the reports and consolidating reports and bringing information upside down and top down and backwards. So I think it was working very, very slow. So, and from 20, and in 90s, even in 80s, started this process. There is an English word for this, delayering, removing the number of layers. And apparently today companies came to 5, 4, even to 3. So number of layers decreased significantly. So instead of these sharp pyramids, we go to very flat, extremely flat pyramids. Let me give you an extreme example. Do you know the service, the mobile service named WhatsApp? To exchange messages, to have calls, to have a group calls, WhatsApp.
Yes,
I was surprised when I learned that WhatsApp, which is serving billions of people, is a team less than 100. So it's extremely flat pyramids, and most of this 100 is actually developers. So number of management levels is decreasing. And we were talking about middle management as a primary, as a core, let's say, source of resistance. And let's talk, what is your thinking? Why this management level is resisting? All over the world, of course. So why middle management resists?
Perhaps when we talk about those changes, for a middle manager, you have to consider your own job safety, and you think, well, if, for example, we implement those processes, maybe it puts me out of a job. Maybe now I am, let's say, not homeless, but now the job which I had, let's say, for 5-10 years, I'll have to go and look for a new one, which I would say, especially if you've done something for a long time, it seems, harrowing. And you don't want to implement something which will jeopardize your situation in the company. Maybe you think, hey, if, for example, I give more autonomy to my workers, let's say in 6 months, my boss comes to me and says, well, this department is doing very well on its own. Do you want, let's talk about your employment status. And I think this is probably what goes through the head of a middle manager at that point.
I might add on this point. Yeah, I totally agree with Kola. I guess, that middle management can sometimes be resistant to changes like in the organization, because they may feel that the authority and responsibilities are being diminished. And also middle managers, they may be concerned about the impact of changes on their subordinates and the potential job loss, as Koля said, or reorganization. That's why it's important for organizations to like effectively communicate the reasons for any changes and involve all the levels of management in the decision-making process.
Okay. Okay. Other, let's say, thinking?
Maybe fear of losing job, because if change is not working or innovative ideas didn't give results, they think that they will be asked first about this because they are closer to top level management.
Okay. Okay. So let me give a comment about this reason. Apparently, you're right. It's about maybe losing a job, which is an extreme case. But in many other cases, it's just about losing influence. So let's imagine a head of a customer service team. A group of people receiving the phone calls, receiving the messages regarding the quality, regarding the operability of the product, regarding the things. Like I was doing 2 days ago, speaking with the customer service of my mobile company. So this person, let's say he's running a team of 200 people. This makes him as a relatively senior manager, having a good salary, because salary is generally connected to responsibility and to managing more and more people. And HR is usually structuring the compensation system this way. So 200 people, one head of customer services, business processes are adjusted, service indicators are okay, and he even knows how to cheat the system, how to adjust these indicators to his own good or her. And he's having an innovation manager getting into his office with the idea, hey, let's implement AI for these customer services. And 70% of requests will be processed by AI. Not 100, 70, which makes this guy responsible not for 200 people, but for 60 people. Would he be happy? So definitely it's about losing a control, it's about losing an authority, and sometimes losing money. So there is a definite fear. Of course, if we go to down level to this customer service person, definitely this person will be obsessed as well, because the first thinking this person will get that artificial intelligence will remove him or her. And by the way, 2 days ago, I was speaking to artificial intelligence of this mobile company. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed that time. But what I want to emphasize is that when it goes to changes, especially to drastic changes, who is resisting? The whole company. More or less all the management levels, they ask status quo. They ask their yearly cycle, they ask their holidays, they ask their KPIs, which, as I said, they know how to adjust. So let's say the company is, resisting by it all. So, and before addressing the change management explanations, before addressing the communications, it would be worth to think of a change management strategy of how do we think. Do we employ hard approach, like re-engineering the whole company in a very drastic way? Or do we make an island of very isolated and we try changes, we make everything working and then we expand island to the whole organization? Or do we employ some other strategy? So before implementing change management tools, we go to, we rather think about this change management strategy. And let me name one more example before we go to next item. In Alibaba, when I was reading about Alibaba HR policies, they value people and they evaluate people. not just for their ability and their hard skills, not for their ability of code, not for their ability to design a new business processes, but they also evaluate the ability to adjust, to change. So, and they don't hire people who are not ready to change, who expect that the next year will be like previous and the one after them will be like previous as well. So they make their company as a change ready and having change capability embedded. In your thoughts, you mentioned another major point, fear, that people are fearing the changes. What are other reasons to fear and where this fear comes from, other than what we discussed already, like risk to lose their job, risk to lose their, let's say, their power? Are there other reasons?
I think yes. I generally think that it just kind of touches on what you said before about how there are basically two ways of like either we're continue with this just like drastic change of whatever innovation is coming in, whatever, or we're just being isolated from the outside world and how it changes. But then again, like the fear of not being able to adjust and not being able to obtain the needed knowledge to proceed with the changes, to being able to like be agile in the innovative world. I guess that's like a main thing, and that's where this is my question actually. Is there actually could be there another way, which is like a more not as like strict and drastic, but also open to a change, right, for a company? And in my opinion, like it could be just that it provides like a needed transparent, maybe like a way for the employees to see the need in the change and how they can proceed into like getting the needed resources for that. And let's say like the lifelong learning trend and the fear of like missing out on the opportunity to get what is needed to like have a security of the job. And it kind of also touches on what girls were talking in the presentations way before that, that it's the hustle culture as well. And like, how can we, it's like a circle which you go, and is there a way to stop it? And just being a more kind of a golden balance in this situation can be found.
So I jotted your question and we'll definitely get back to it. Other considerations, other thinking of what are the root causes of fear at the individual level? Are you a manager? Are you an employee? Whatever. Are there any other root causes of fear?
So we actually have some thoughts on our theme. So can we share our screen?
Okay.
We consider that the world of work can be highly chaotic and stressful, with an ever-increasing workload, constant demands, and unending distractions. However, it doesn't have to be this way. In fact, many organizations are realizing the benefits of adopting an iterative approach to organizational development that emphasizes continuous development and adaptability. Organizational development refers to the process of improving an organization's performance and efficiency by focusing on people, processes, and systems. In other words, it is like a process of transformation and growth that helps an organization achieve its tools, goals, and objectives. The iterative approach to organizational development is based on the principles of agility, flexibility, and adaptability. And it involves breaking down complex projects into smaller, more manageable tasks, and then using regular feedback and review cycles to make continuous improvements. At the heart of this approach is the idea that it doesn't have to be crazy at work. which emphasizes the importance of creating a calm, focused work environment that allows employees to do their best work without distractions or unnecessary stress. This means building a culture of trust, openness, and collaboration where employees feel valued and supported. And
I'm sorry for interrupting, but there is a title slide on it on the screen. So probably you move to the other slides. Sorry.
Yes, let's move to the potential reasons of such behavior. First one is mental health issues, like individuals with mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, like different disorders may experience symptoms that improve their behavior in the workspace. Then high levels of stress and burnout can lead to emotional and behavioral changes that may be out of character for an individual. Then substance abuse can lead to erratic behavior, including aggression or mood swings that may impact someone's work performance. The next one is personal issues such as relationship problems, financial stress, or health concerns can impact someone's ability to focus and remain calm at work. And a toxic working environment can cause employees to feel unsupported, undervalued, or constantly criticized. And as for the last one, employees who are dissatisfied with their job or feel undervalued may become frustrated or resentful, which can lead to negative behavior also. And actually, it's important to approach disruptive behavior with empathy and like seek to understand the underlying causes before taking any action. If you're experiencing disruptive behavior at work, it's important to speak with a manager or HR representative to ensure that appropriate steps are taken to address the situation. So, Nastya, I think that you can continue.
Please.
So of course, let's move to like strategies which can be implemented to achieving like this, like for like different methodologies, and like the first is to adopt agile methodology, which is designed to actually help teams to work like efficiently and effectively by breaking down work into short like cycles, which can be like implemented in different times and they can be repeated, and then using regular feedback. So there should be like a system between the feedback of the top management and like middle and the like juniors. And this approach like emphasizes collaboration, communication, like transparency and other things that helps team to stay focused, their priorities, like to manage their needs and adapt to changing needs and avoid burnouts and other like psychology problems. And another key strategy, which we think is very vital too, is that focusing on building culture of continuous improvement. What I mean about that, so the point is that this means encouraging employees to regularly reflect on their work and then identify areas where there are some problems, no problems, and where can be improvements, and what should like the top management and the company do for them, and also providing like the support and resources needed to make changes actually. And by fostering like this culture of learning growth, the organization can create a more engaged, I can say, and motivated workforce. It's better to adapt to different changes and like just more loyal to the company and more like healthy for the company. And of course, it will be better. So the last point that we think it's very essential in this team is like economic causes of this crazy behavior. And so we contributed them to 3 parts. So it's sacrificing. So the point of sacrificing is that employees work longer hours, take more projects, sacrifice work-life balance. That is very, of course, important for their like life. And this can lead to a culture or just stress and exhaustion, which can ultimately harm employees' health and well-being and just all the well-being system of the company. Then insecurity insecurity, like people tend to feel insecure just in their life, and when it helps, when it becomes in a company, it becomes a real problem. And if employees feel that their jobs are at risk and their position is at risk and their life is at risk because of the company, they're more likely to push themselves too hard, take on more work that they handle, and avoid taking time off or speaking up about their concerns. As it's sometimes right now is a problem in just Apple, I can say, in the company, because the staff they say that the whole organization, the company is like the death march, and they have to live with it, and they have nothing to do without it. So they are feeling really insecure.
Sorry for interrupting. Microsoft is actually pretty much the same.
Yes, actually. And just in cases with the companies, we had a lot of paperwork about how the American companies have their motivational systems and all the financial part and so on. But in fact, they don't work. And that's just the point that we have to live with it. And just, yes, of course, you put an extra table for tennis, but man, it won't work like that. So yes, and the last point that I think is very essential too. So organization may prioritize profits over people, and it will lead to the culture of exploitation, harassment, and discrimination. And this very thing can create a toxic work environment that perpetuates crazy behavior and leads to high turnover rates, low morale, and negative public perception. And just because of the fact that the public perception of the company is not all about the product and the services that they have, but about the employees too. And to summarize all the things mentioned above, it's really important to balance short-term economic goals with long-term sustainability and well-being employees. So now on all the case championships and some Olympiads and academic Olympiads, there are some moments about this well-being, corporate well-being. There should be just a structured system which should be implemented from the early beginning, from the birth of the company. And this requires a focus on creating positive and supportive work environment, and culture of transparency, which should be built very fast. Very fast, I mean in the beginning. And open communication and prioritizing employees, but not the other goals, which are often prioritized. As Lera said at the beginning, human resources is the main resource of the company. So by doing so, organization can not only achieve economic success, but also create a more sustainable, productive, and fulfilling workplace for the employees. And that's just the main point that we wanted to go to tell you about, and just we'll be ready to discuss, and we'll be grateful for discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for the deck, and thanks for this speech. I'm very happy that you thought through the, let's say, the thinking related to company. The only thing I would rather a little bit disagree, if you go to the previous slide, to the previous one, and to one more back. Yes, so potential reasons. I would title this slide as potential results, because this is what follows of this culture of distractions, culture of stress, culture of humiliation and stuff. So these are consequences. And you mentioned that if you meet this situation, it would be worth talking to HR manager or you to your direct manager, which is definitely true. One thing, I will give a point, but I will not give an answer. So when I started to work with a government institution, I met all these distractions and all these changes in plan and all this hustle culture and everything I met at the government level. So, and surprisingly, if you are at the individual level, it is the same. If you go to department head, it is the same. You know, they're changing the plan. They depend on, let's say, somebody's timetable, and this timetable is just jumping. If you go to deputy minister level, it remains the same. If you go even higher, it remains the same. So I'm afraid it's a little bit too early for me to leave the office, because I really want to deal with this problem somehow, because something should be done regarding it. Something should be done. Definitely, you are expected in businesses and you are expected in governments, because I truly believe with discussing these things step by step, we will be making a little bit better world. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for this. And one more thing I would point from your presentation. You definitely mentioned the uncertainty, and Irina also mentioned uncertainty as one of the primary reasons of fear that people are fearing. And is there other thinking? Now we are slowly coming to the last section of our conversation. What are the core reasons, other reasons we did not yet discuss, that people are fearing? Fearing to work, fearing to innovate, fearing to be in the organization.
Maybe people might fear that they are not good enough, because there's a high competition among employees, both just for the position in the company and also for the promotion. And people may always think that I don't know enough information, I'm not skilled enough, I don't have enough like both soft and hard skills. And this is the cause of a lot of stress. And it really might lead to burnouts and to dissatisfaction with your job, even though it might be your dream, but you may be dissatisfied because it causes so much stress in your life. And also it might lead a person to working long hours and not having enough time for his or her personal life or his family. So, yeah.
True. Anything else, please?
Maybe fear of missing out to some extent, because if change is implemented, then there will be a lot of stuff going on to catch up with. So I think it's one of the reasons.
Yeah, we discussed it slightly already, and it's definitely a reason. Anything else? Seeing no sense of life outside the organization. It's happening here and now and everywhere. Anything else, please?
Well, maybe there's a fear of some like global organizational changes, well, such as like restructuring or mergers, acquisition. They can create uncertainty and fear among employees because they know they can lose their roles in the future. They were looking for like some career development, and they can lose that in the future because of the acquisition.
Definitely. I was a member of acquisition teams 4 times, and apparently, if you have 2 organizational pyramids merging, definitely there will be some people to stay and some people to go or to lose their positions. So unfortunately, yes. And this is part of the uncertainty Irina was talking about. Yes. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to add something. I know the concept of spiral dynamics, and maybe employees might be not ready for changes because the whole corporate culture and the step of evaluation of the corporate is not ready to changes that the top management would like to introduce. So I mean that the stage of corporate development may not fit to the desires of top management.
Yeah, very good. If you like spiral dynamics, I like it personally very much. It's totally not scientific, but it's very practical. So, and I know Mark Rozina is a person who is promoting this spiral dynamics in Russia and who developed this spiral dynamics. If you like the concept, definitely you were thinking about the following question. Not just, the place of the company on this spiral, but how organization culture is formed, which drives it. What are the drivers of corporate culture, where it comes from? Not from the sky, not from aliens, not from my cat. So where from?
I see that organizational culture is driven by top management, by the entrepreneur owners, and maybe even the biggest driver is people, is linear employees, because when HR hire people, high qualified specialists, HR specialists, they figure out what competencies, what values should these people have, and if we in the first step of hiring, of building a team, if we don't think about further changes, further organizational culture, there will be a collapse. There will be not the result we want.
Yeah, well, generally, top management is apparently the ones who develop the culture. There can be also so-called role models. For example, a senior engineer who is very popular and having a very strong vision. These type of persons may shape the culture. And the problem is that if company history is 50 years, its culture will be shaped with all these 50 years. Company will remember its history and its early days and definitely all this stuff. And if we have the senior manager joining the organization with a different culture, organization will either chunk him or not notice or will reject or whatever. So definitely it is an issue. It was another statement touched that persons are afraid because they feel not good enough. What is the reason of this? Why people are feeling not good enough?
It is because of the quick technological development, for example, and the need to constantly, upskill or reskill.
Today's technology is quite simplified to use. Why people are afraid? Why they're concerned that they are not good enough? And they leave the long hours. They try to overperform themselves every day.
You know about this fear, like FOMO, right? I'm pretty sure everybody knows about this, like fear of missing out. I feel like that has something to do with this, because you see a lot of the times, like on social media or like your coworkers or just your friends, and you see like them do a lot of things, and you see them like getting used to like this type of this new system that like a company implemented to be agile in this world, and you see them getting used to it. And like I guess it can be because of the comparing like kind of trend, and I feel like it has been going on for a long time now.
Well, let me bring one very simple story to the desk. It's one from my practice. So we were having a new employee and senior manager, and after 2 or 3 months of working, this employee, I attended the conversation, so I know that this story is true. So she asked, how about my performance? Am I doing the right things? Should I adjust something? And this senior management person, by the way, not bad one, turned and said, you are not punished. So it means that you are doing well. How do you think? Is it a proper type of feedback?
No, obviously not. I actually was thinking about this as well, like the fact that like employees need appraisal from basically the employers about how they're doing. They need feedback, what to improve and what has been done correctly, and you need to continue that pattern. Yeah, definitely a better feedback.
So all managers at all levels attended a lot of trainings of how to give a feedback. Very few are really giving a feedback at all, or they miss a feedback and evaluation, like, you achieved 30% good, you achieved 60% good, but it's not a feedback, it's something different. So one of the primary reasons people are afraid is that, yes, this fear of missing out and fear of not good enough is about this executive, is about this management feedback. And before we proceed about the fear, at one of the speeches, it was a question I promised to reply further on, that is it possible to build a no fear culture? Like, is it possible to work without fears? Well, I doubt it's possible 100%. Sometimes fear are persisting and they can be real, they can be imaginary, but I will tell you one story. I was dealing with one industrial company, federal scale, and this company wanted to be innovative, wanted to be digital, and it put a lot of efforts. Actually, they were proceeding quite slow. And I noticed, it was a verbal analysis, which is very powerful, that at every meeting related to innovations, there was more or less the same type of conversation. Okay, we implement this technology. Okay, we develop this device. Okay, we pilot this, we pilot this. What will happen if we fail? Who will be punished? Who will be fired? And top management of the company, they came from 90s, and it was really an approach they used, like no right to do a mistake, no right for failure, and punishment had been severe. And definitely, company was moving on this innovation path very slowly, because it had been much easier for managers not to innovate, not to bring changes, not to bring an improvement, and exist day by day, week after week, year after year, quite peacefully. So there was a, let's say, a culture of fear. And as I said, this company did move slow. Another example, opposite, I will give. It's quite old. It's from 2016 or 17, I don't remember exactly. And it's related to Dodo Pizza organization. I think more or less everybody knows it. This company were growing quite fast. There were 4 years, they were growing 100% annually. And it's a very high speed. Every year, plus 100% comparing to previous year. And then every year comparing to previous one. So it was quite a rush. So, and it happened a story when their IT system, by mistake, returned 10 million rubles to customers who paid their pizzas online. Company was relatively small. They were having like 16 or 17 pizzeria houses, or 100 or something. So they were small. And 10 million rubles it was not a disaster, but it was a significant amount of money. So first they demonstrated was an openness. The owner published the post at social network that, hey, this story happened. Please, banks and payment companies, please help us resolving it. So it was an openness and public recognition of mistake. Then they resolved the situation legally in 3 days, and they returned almost the whole amount of money. And then it was a third step. Owner, further, he publicly made a statement that based on this case, no one in his company, nobody will be punished. And now I suggest us to brainstorm a little bit why he made this decision, because there was a background for this decision, and it is related to fear. Okay, you're thinking? You may take several efforts. It's not that obvious.
Can I just add that, like, I'm doing my thesis right now, and actually this, like, punitive motivation with big emphasis on, like, punishing people, saying that they're bad, is actually, like, a big problem. Even right now, and a lot of companies, a lot of managers still, like, resort to that when they can't do their job properly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good thinking, like punishment as a motivation is not good. But my question is why?
As I see it, when you punish people, you kind of give them the message that you don't give them the message that they should try harder. You give them the message you should not make mistakes. And when you operate in the mode of, like, I should not make mistakes, I should not step out of line, it's much harder for you to be flexible, to accept, like, new ideas and to try new stuff, because you don't know that, like, you will get praised for doing good. You know that if this fails, I'll do bad, and you kind of, like, program yourself that it will fail most likely, and then you are disincentivized to try. That's the way I view it.
Well, you are very close. Please, other options, other opinions?
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I think that fear puts a lot of limits on our imaginations, and it stifles creativity. And I think the main reason we need to get away from this.
Well, actually, explanation had been very pragmatic, extremely pragmatic. So please let's brainstorm a little bit more.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So this question, this situation at Doda Pizza appeared. It was an error in IT system. They potentially lost quite a lot of money. They resolved the situation. However, no one had been punished after they resolved the case.
Like, why nobody was punished?
No one had been punished. Why? What was the background of this management decision of company?
Can I try to answer this again? There is like thinking in Western companies, as far as I know, that you should allow your employees to make mistakes because they'll be like more eager to grow, more eager to learn, and more loyal to your company. And this wasn't like, they recovered the money. Yes, it took some time, but this was not like a company breaking mistake. So they can like forgive their employees, and these employees will see that they are valued, that the company is eager to hold on to them, and they'll be more motivated to work for them in the process.
Well, I would say you are 95%, close. I would even say 100%. As I said, explanation had been extremely pragmatic. So Fyodor Ovchinnikov wrote that we are growing 100% a year every year, and we are planning to consider. Mistakes are inevitable. We will be making mistakes. And they made quite a few mistakes further on in course of this growth. However, if we will be punishing for mistakes, not for bad behavior, but for mistakes, there is a difference. There is a fundamental difference between bad behavior and improper behavior and mistakes. We will not grow. We will stop growing. So he said, this is a core explanation I deliver to the whole market, to the whole company, and to the whole market. Then no one will be punished for this situation. So you're extremely close, I would say. You got the case. So I gave you two examples, like punishment-based culture and this type of culture. However, tolerating mistakes shouldn't be tolerating bad behavior. For example, company thefts should not be tolerated. They should be punished immediately. And there is a fundamental difference between these two things. So this is a fundamental reason of fear for doing mistake, reason to be punished. And if organization want to grow, definitely there should be a certain tolerance, reasonable tolerance for mistakes. But at the same time, quite hard execution discipline and not tolerating the bad behavior, improper behavior. So we are coming to the end of our conversation. Before I will address the last question from Irina, are there any other short questions, considerations to me, or comments regarding our discussion?
I would like to add one last thing. I didn't manage to say it when we were discussing hustle culture, but I was reading the book, which is like the McKinsey method of a person who worked there and who gave his like insights on problem solving and consulting work. And he said that if you ever work, let's say at McKinsey or wherever, if you decide like, I want to put extra hours, I will like carry a project on my back, you shouldn't do it. Because once you do it, it will be expected of you, and probably nobody will ever give you extra credit for doing it because they'll think it's like, it's how you normally work. So just don't set too high of expectations for yourself. Work at your own pace and make sure that you do good work and you don't like pull all the problems on top of yourself and try to solve everything. Which I think is like very good insight.
The book is interesting. It's quite a classics of company transformations. Yeah, thanks for this. Okay. Other thoughts? So we are a little bit tired, and I will quote the question from Irina. Is it possible for a young employee who just started their career, waking up in the morning to start changing your organization? Or it's not possible since you don't have administrative resource for this? Well, definitely quite a lot is dependent on administrative resource, and what apparently can be and should be done, and what is possible is develop not just your hard skills, develop the ability to recognize what culture you are working in, what it drives from. And I told you quite several stories about drivers of the culture, like where are you? Do you really want to be here? Developing quite a good skills. Do you want to give your time to this organization, or you will be driven to this culture, which of course is happening here now and then, and you are driven by this organization culture, which may happen, or you select the organization you like, select the organization you be in, select the organization that you can move up and gradually start changing it. Is there any way to understand your culture? Yes, the same spiral dynamics we were talking earlier, it can be applied not just to the company, it can be applied and should be applied to you. Are you a person of, let's say, of red culture? Are you a person of creative culture? Are you a person of collaboration culture? So you might ask people around you, and they will tell a lot of interesting things about you. Definitely, people around me, they tell quite interesting things about me as well. So, and you can self-analyze. You can see, are you moving in the direction you like to, regarding your personal development, regarding your cultural development, and regarding the company you want to be in. And at the end of the story, I will tell this phrase in Russian, because I don't know how to translate it in English. So I'm wishing very much that you find the organizations and you build the organizations, те, в которых хочется быть, а не те, в которых хочется быть. Когда я рассказываю про организационную культуру, я обычно заканчиваю этой фразой. So we are moving towards the end of the session. I would say it was interesting. It took almost 2 hours. And thanks for the presentations. Thanks for the essays. Thanks for thoughts. We moved a little bit, a little bit different direction than just discussing the Calm Company. But I think Calm Company, not just business processes. It's not just an IT systems. It's definitely a culture. It's definitely a thinking. It's definitely a philosophy. That's why people who were doing this Calm Company, they dedicated several chapters of their book regarding the philosophy. So I wish you good end of the education, finding your place, and understanding that it's your place, not just in terms of industry, not just in terms of location, but in terms of the culture, and keep developing the capability of how to estimate the organization culture, how to estimate the culture of yourself, and stick to the culture you want to be type of, example of, role model of. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was very interesting to have the discussion with you.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for interesting thoughts and presentations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We did not prepare the plan, but thanks for the presentation. I think everything went extremely logically.
If you don't mind, could I say a couple of words? Pavel, thank you very much. Well, you've been our long-standing and a very loyal partner and an active participant of all our events. And well, apart from being a great expert in the field you're working, you definitely are a great coach, tutor, communicator. And I think your role today, well, is hard can hardly be overestimated. And you establish a dialogue so easily that students, you know, respond without any fear. Well, what you've just said today, well, they are not afraid to give the wrong answer. They know they're not going to be punished. They're going to build on that, which is absolutely great. And your sessions have always been fruitful, successful, but I think everybody agrees. If I say that today's was kind of different from the previous ones. It was what we witnessed this morning was a live dialogue of the students with the expert. It's something that is worth mentioning, worth, I don't know, be happy about. I'm sure that everybody benefited from today's session, and most of the students, I believe, will remember it, will get back to what they heard, what they spoken, what they well spoke out today, and that will more than once ring the bell and perhaps help them in their future life and career. And my special address to the participants, to the students. Thank you very much, guys. Good job done. And today you showed yourselves as very, very mature communicators, in my opinion, with highly developed critical thinking. And I believe that most of you have already chosen their career paths, but perhaps today's session will, I don't know, will serve some doubts, or just the other way around, will help you once again think twice and maybe make some changes. In any case, whatever path you choose, we believe that what we've had today will kind of contribute or add to your future competitiveness on the market. I wish you all good luck and happy Easter to all. Thank you.
Happy Easter. Thank you very much. And yes, it's the fourth time I'm attending this Students Guide session. And just now I started to think, and I thought that I still study. So there are still pieces of management knowledge which are surprising me. Technologies which are surprising me, organizations surprising me, governments surprising me, people surprising me. So I'm 51 now, and I wish you the same, that you will always be finding new, be always finding surprising, be always finding interesting.
Thanks a lot.
Is there anybody from students on the student side who want to say something, yes, before we switched off, before we or leave this conference? Was there anything, or is there anything you can add? Oh,
I wanted to say that it was a great experience to discuss all of these topics, and yesterday I've attended some of the lections of Student Guide, and today I guess we had the most interesting, personally, session. And thank you to our experts. Pavel, thank you so much, because the ideas you've shared and the questions you've asked us gave us an opportunity to think a little bit further, a little bit more. And it was a really great pleasure to spend the Sunday morning together with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And please keep contact either in the chat or in social networks. Unfortunately, last few weeks, I'm not writing that much that I would love to write about the Calm company, because believe me, these days, I'm not working for the Calm company. Not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
But I will keep writing, and your questions are sometimes helping me to find new topics. So I'm speaking very seriously.
Mm-hmm. So you invite people to read your personal networks, right?
Not just to read, but to write and address questions.
You can address questions. And you promise to sometime return to that chat and to add something as well, right? If it comes to mind, something worth sharing.
I promise to respond.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All the rest to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Goodbye.